In this video, we'll explore the untold stories of Mama Cass Elliott's tragic life, while showcasing her rare photos. When Cass Elliott died at the young age of 32, everyone was shocked and confused as to what led to her early demise. Autopsy says it's a drug overdose, but is it really the true cause of her death? And how come she never found true love during her lifetime? Stay tuned to find out. Originally born Ellen Naomi Cohen in Baltimore, Maryland, the young singer adopted the name Cass in high school from her role model, actress Peggy Cass. Charmed by the acting industry, Cass called it quits with school a few months before high school graduation. With an impressive IQ of 165.5, Cass Elliott didn't leave school due to academic struggles. She felt different and chose her own path outside of education. And her next stop was New York City. She had dreams of performing on Broadway, but unfortunately, that never happened. The closest she got to that dream was a small part in the play The Boyfriend at the Hilltop Theater in Owings Mills, Maryland. So, how did she transition to music? Well, she always had it in her, but music at the time was merely a favorite hobby. Her co-employees remembered when she used to sing while working as a cloakroom attendant at the show place in Greenwich Village. Little did she know that this little hobby was about to change her life. The magic happened when she moved to Washington, D.C. There she met American singers Tim Rose and John Brown. Together, they formed a music group first known as the Triumvirate. They worked on a couple of songs together until Brown had to leave and he was replaced by American guitarist James Hendrix. It was around this time that they rebranded to the Big Three. Elliott's first project with her new bandmates was Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, which was broadcast by FM Records in 1963. Unfortunately, this new partnership was not going to last. Tim Rose left the following year, and Elliott and James did all they could to keep the group going. They even teamed up with Zal Yanofsky and Denny Doherty to form the Mugwumps, but after a few months, Elliott was riding solo. Solo seemed like the perfect move for her career at that time because it wouldn't be long before she would join the group that announced her to the world. But even that was to come at a heavy price. Originally known as the New Journeymen, Denny Doherty, one of the early members of the band, would convince John Phillips to let Cass be a part of the band. But John, for a few personal reasons, hated Elliott from the very moment he set eyes on her. He only let her in because of persistent pressure by Doherty. Among other reasons, these are the two main reasons why John Phillips didn't want Cass Elliott in his band. The first was that she was fat. Second, he was jealous of her talent, and he would do all that he could to make sure that Cass had a miserable time in the band. Elliott recalled a time when she just broke the news of her pregnancy to the band, and the first thing Phillips would ask her was when she was getting an abortion. It was terrible that he hated her because of her body, as he thought that it would defame the band. According to Doherty, Elliott was the life of their band. Her sense of humor and personality easily made her the most charismatic person in their group. Together, they worked on special hits like California Dreamin', Monday Monday, Words of Love, and Cass Elliott's solo track, Dream a Little Dream of Me. Elliott narrated a story of how an accident that could have killed her miraculously improved her vocal range. She was hit on the road by a pipe from a building construction site, and after a few weeks in the hospital, she noticed that her vocal range had improved by 3 notes. Somehow, she could sing higher now. However, later on, friends of Cass would confess that the story was just a less embarrassing makeup of why John wanted her out of the band. Anyway, one of the reasons they struggled so much to keep it together as a band was that lots of emotions and forbidden romances were happening behind the stage. While John Phillips had his whole focus on getting Mama Cass out of the band, Doherty was patiently working his way to his wife's heart. And this shattered him and Cass too. According to the rumors, Cass had this huge crush on Doherty and would even at some point muster up the courage to propose to him. But that was bad timing, as Doherty reported that he was too stoned at the moment to give any reply. And when he kicked things off with Michelle Phillips, guess who he broke the news to first? Cass. With a lot of heart issues like this going on within the band, it was only a matter of time before they called the entire show off. They managed to keep things going for 3 years, after which everyone went their separate ways. And after that, Cass would learn exactly how difficult it was transitioning from Mama Cass to just Cass Elliott. Cass Elliott was very unlucky in the love department. Either the men she loved didn't love her back, or they just wanted to use her as a means of satisfaction for their selfish desires. She was married twice, and her first marriage was a contracted one. Back in the 60s, when men were almost forced to serve in the military, James Hendricks would get married to his bandmate, Cass Elliot, to avoid being drafted during the Vietnam War. They got married in 1963, and as you know it, unions like this almost never lead to happily ever afters. It was even rumored that their love was never consummated. Anyway, by 1968, their marriage was annulled, and Cass was free once more to give another shot at love. In 1971, she tied the knot with journalist Donald von Weidemann, heir to a Bavarian barony. This was a bad idea, as they divorced just a few months after they got together. Cass Elliot has a daughter, Owen Vanessa Elliot, born on April 26, 1967. She continued to hide the identity of her child's father, and it was only many years after her death that Michelle Phillips would help her daughter identify her biological father, Charles Wayne Day, an American guitarist. Like her mother, Vanessa would also choose the path of music. You might remember her from her popular tour with Beach Boys member Al Jardine. Cass might not have found lasting love, but she had love all around her. She had lots of friends who cared about her. But on the flip side, while music was her greatest attraction, it also brought a lot of things and people close enough to hurt her, leading to her early demise. And the greatest of these things are drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol were a normal culture for music bands back in the day, and Cass would be heavily influenced. Denny Doherty was helplessly addicted to alcohol, and John Phillips did drugs until his hands went all black because of damaged circulation before he was forced into rehab. So yes, Cass Elliot tried a few experiments with drugs herself. In the weeks leading to her death, she admitted to a boyfriend that she injected heroin before going upstage. Also, American singer David Crosby, in his 1988 memoir, confessed that he and Cass did a lot of experimenting with opiates, cocaine, and heroin. For a woman of the people, Cass's last days were filled with loneliness, misery, and depression. And after her death, she would be forever known as the singer who died eating a ham sandwich. But nevertheless, there are so many mysteries revolving around the untimely death of Cass Elliot on July 29, 1974. Many argue that she died from an overdose. Others say that it was heart failure. Whichever it was, it sure was a painful death, and a hotel room was nowhere for a star like Cass Elliot to die. A year after her death, Rolling Stone released an article that she died choking on her ham sandwich, but her manager, Alan Carr, insisted on a drug overdose. Autopsy results proved that there were no drugs in her system at the time of her death, and it is very likely to have been heart failure. In the weeks leading to her death, close friends reported that she was showing signs of ill health, but never opened up to anyone about her condition. She had collapsed in the California television studio of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson weeks before and was taken to a hospital, but this was quickly dismissed as exhaustion from interviews. And in a very strange coincidence, 4 years after her death, The Who's drummer Keith Moon died in the same hotel bedroom, and they were both 32 years old. Cass's body was cremated at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles. Cass Elliot may not be here anymore, but her music continues to live in our hearts, and her impact on the music industry will never be forgotten. At the time of her death, she had an estimated net worth of $20,000. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out other videos of beautiful ladies from the yesteryears on the end screen.